All right, what up, folks? It's your man, 100 Days of Summer. In this video, what I want to talk about is basically the secret to manifesting your desires. I guess most people would consider it the law of attraction. I don't, because I think the law of attraction is a more commercialized version of what I'm about to talk to you about. I think it actually leaves out some of the more important details so that you stay in a kind of a consistent loop of never arriving at the point you're trying to get at. That way you stay in the same cycle of being a customer. So what I've come to discover over my time in understanding things like this is that there's always two versions. There's the commercial version that the mass majority of people do, but it doesn't actually get you results. Those results are typically hit and miss. Like sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't, and there's no real rhyme or reason as to why you don't. But when you do, you always attribute it to this technique, which is kind of how we keep ourselves in a delusion. So that's typically that's the commercial version. Then the actual version is a lot less sexy, a lot less entertaining. You can't make movies about it or documentaries and shit like that. And then when it comes to actually doing those things, people tend to not want to do it that way. So that's usually how you distinguish it. And then one gets consistent, duplicatable results, while the other one, like I said, is hit or miss. So that's kind of how I narrow things down. So when it comes to manifesting, there's like some principles that I use. It's a very easy thing. It's kind of a technique or whatever. It's a very easy thing once you understand it, but I want to kind of create some background to this, what I'm about to say, because for some people it might be a little off. So they might not know how I came to that conclusion, which creates a barrier to listening to what I'm saying. So, all right, so I'm going to use a few scriptures to kind of highlight this because the principles are there. All right, so in Proverbs, I forgot which part of Proverbs, but you could Google this. It says that a desire prolonged or hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life, right? So a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. What was the thing that Adam was denied access to in the garden at the beginning of the Bible, right? The tree of life. So he was denied the ability to manifest his desires. How did he get to that state is the thing that we should really pay close attention to. I'll cover it briefly because I want to do a whole video over it about what the true fall of man is. But just look at it. I'll go over it briefly without highlighting the scriptures exactly. But just roll with me until I get to that point in another video. So Adam was placed in a garden. He was taken from where he was at and placed in a garden. Where he was taken from is the same dust that he was made from. All right, so he was taken from there and placed in a garden. What is a garden? A garden is a hedged, enclosed place that is protected from outside influence. But the main important part is it's tilled soil, right? Adam was taken from non-tilled soil. He was placed in a place of tilled soil, a place where there are rows of seeds. Everything is in order and organized, and where you plant something is where it grows, and what you planted is what grows. That's the cycle of manifestation. Now, the outside of that is a wilderness or a wild forest or a wild field. How do those things grow? The wind blows something into the ground, it plants, and it grows. There's no rhyme or reason, and it's chaotic. That's how the majority of us manifest our lives, as a wild field, as a wilderness, as opposed to a garden, something that is organized, tilled, fertilized, watered, and brought to fruition. So Adam was removed from that place. He was taken out of that state, the garden state. We are the earth. We are made of the earth, same composition of water and minerals. We are the earth, right? So Adam is that earth. Paradise on earth is the garden. That's what Adam was. He was in paradise. He was paradise on earth, learning how to manifest. What he plants grows. Where he plants it is where it grows. He was removed from that state and placed outside of the garden. Outside of the garden, God said, this ground won't yield to you. It'll be tough. Where you'll eat from it, from the sweat of your brow. Like it won't be like in the cool of the day in the garden. You'll be in the sweat, and this won't be easy work. This ground isn't tilled for you, and it'll bear thorns and thistles. So what you're trying to grow, where you're trying to grow it, something else will grow. Thorns and thistles, things that aren't useful, things that you can't eat will grow in place of what you once had in the garden. These are the two separate states. So how did Adam get into this state? How did he get there? In chapter 2 of Genesis, at the last verse of chapter 2, it says, and the man and his wife were naked and unashamed. And then in the very next chapter, Adam and his wife become naked and ashamed. In that state, they begin to hide themselves from God. God didn't hide it from them. It says Adam hid from the presence of God. So in that state, he hid from God. The same God who was in chapter 2 when he was naked and unashamed. So he was naked before God the entire time, and God didn't judge Adam. Even more so, God created Adam naked in the first place. God didn't say who made you naked. He says who told you you were naked. Who told you that what you are was wrong? How did you get to this point where you're judging yourself in a way that I'm not even judging you? Why has it caused you to separate yourself so far from me that an all-knowing God has to walk through the garden and say, Adam, where are you? Being placed into that state, the fear of God, because that's what Adam took on, the fear of God, which is only the beginning of wisdom. The end of wisdom is the love of God. And perfect love casts out all fear. So why did Adam have to leave the garden? Because he became fearful of God. He that fears has not been made perfect in love, because fear has torment, or the word torment means fear of penalty, fear of punishment. You don't understand the unconditional love of God. That's why you fear punishment. So that is a long way of saying why we're not in a place of being able to manifest our life and the desires that we actually want, is because we have fallen out of that state. We don't really know how to get back into that state. And that's what I'll make future videos about. But that's the beginning of it right there. That's about the restoration, the wholeness. Jesus would heal people, but he wanted people to have wholeness. The wholeness is how you get to that state, to the garden. Now, for everybody else that just want a healing, the way that you manifest your desires is, instead of using positive thought, positive words, you have to learn how to conjure positive feeling, positive emotion. Jesus says, whatsoever you desire, believe that you will receive it and you shall receive it, or believe that you have received it and you will have it. Whatsoever a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So it's about how you feel, your feeling states and your feeling states. So say, for example, if you're trying to use affirmations and say you're wealthy, most people do that feeling broke. They feel like the broke person. They don't feel like the wealthy person. Well, how does a person conjure feeling? It's kind of simple. You can listen to music. We do that to feel sad when we're in a breakup. We do that to clean the house, right? You can remember your last sexual encounter, and it can begin to manipulate your body into feeling as if that state, that thing is happening currently. And then from there, now you have lustful thoughts, or now you're aroused and you're wondering who you can call. So you've put yourself into that feeling state. So that's how it works. It's the mental imagery that you have in your mind. So say, for example, whatever your desire is, I want to have XYZ. XYZ would make me happy. I just want XYZ. Well, what would happen if you had XYZ? How would you feel? Who would you tell that you had it? When you told that person, what would the look on their face be? What would the first thing that they say be? Would you go to Instagram? Would you go to Facebook? Would you make a YouTube video? What would you do? Because that's what you need to sit there and imagine that you're experiencing. You need to sit there and imagine actually doing the thing until you feel like you're doing the thing. That's when you know it's worked. So, like I said, it's a simple thing. It's easier said than done. But the easiest way to conjure feeling is to use a memory of something that was emotional in the past. Something that got you upset, something that got you mad, some good food, a good scenery, whatever it might be. And it causes a feeling, and then you remember it in your mind until you feel feeling in your body. And then you link the two. My thought in that picture just created feeling in my body. So if you were wealthy, what would you do? What would you do if you were wealthy? What would you do when you woke up in the morning if you had all the money that you needed? What would you do? what would you do? How would you live? What would be the first thing that you would do when you woke up? Imagine yourself doing it. And then as you're imagining yourself doing it, when you feel the feeling of that thing being real, from there is when you say, I'm wealthy. That's where you speak from, because then you're no longer lying to because your body knows the difference. Your body knows when you're lying. That's why affirmations are typically counterproductive, because every time you say I'm wealthy and you're feeling poor, your body knows that you're lying, which reinforces the feeling of being poor. So if you want to be prosperous, if you want to be wealthy, you have to imagine what it would be like to be wealthy, to be prosperous. And then from that place, once that feeling has taken over, that's where you speak prosperous. That's where you speak to manifest prosperity. That's where you think and you brainstorm from that space. Because if you try to do it from another space, if you try to think about cooking when you're extremely full, it's not going to work. The brain doesn't want to go there. You're not in the right energetic state to even conjure creativity for a meal, to even be able to place, imaginarily place food on your palate and seasonings on your palate to mix things together. You won't be able to do it. You're too full. But let you be hungry, and an apple can look delicious. So it's about feeling states, being able to manipulate and feel on purpose. Now, like I said, I'm gonna keep returning to this example, the example of using a memory, because that's what you're using first, just to get aware or familiar with the feeling of seeing an image in your mind and then it causing a feeling in your body. Because what happens is feelings create thoughts. I talked about this before in the procrastination video, but feelings create thoughts, and then thoughts, when believed, create more feeling, which creates more thoughts. It keeps you in a loop. So if you're able to put yourself in a feeling state, then it takes over from there. The feeling creates the thoughts, and then the thoughts creates the feeling, which creates more thoughts. That's why if you've ever had an inspired moment, that's what that is. And then as soon as all those feelings dissipate, you have to look back at the inspired moment from where you're at. And a lot of the times you'll rationalize that whole inspirational moment away as something, maybe I just thought too high about it. Maybe I was, being too naive, and maybe I was thinking more of the situation than it was. But in the moment, it was so real and it made perfect sense. Everything connected and clicked. And then from this side, you look back and you're judging that moment because you're in a different feeling state. So what you can see is different. Like when you're angry, you typically don't see de-escalating types of things. You don't think de-escalating types of things. You don't think loving, peaceful, generous thoughts when you're angry. When you're angry, you think thoughts that are equivalent to your feeling. It's like the resonance, right? The thoughts are like the vibrations coming off of the tuning fork. The tuning fork is you. So when you're angry, your thoughts are going to resonate with your base frequency. If you're happy and you're feeling inspired, then it's going to be the same thing. So, it's like I can say this over and over and over again, and I have a feeling that, I'm going to make a video about faith specifically, walking by faith specifically, which builds on this. More videos about the kingdom, which build on this, and more videos about like the Adam in the garden situations, which builds on all of these things, because this is just me saying it. In a sense, this is just me saying it, but those would be more like study things, I guess. But hopefully this unlocks some things for people. Of course, if you have questions, comments, concerns, you can always leave them in the comment section, and I'm always down to talk to y'all when I have time. I don't have as much time as I used to, so it's a lot more difficult to get nitty gritty in comments. That's why I'm making more videos and stuff too. So yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments. If I can get to them, I surely will. And it'll also let me know what questions I might need to answer in the next video. All right, so I think that is everything. Let me see. Okay, so one last thing. I tell people to do this all the time. I'm not going to go into the full demonstration of what I would typically tell people to do, but if you were to just sit there and just imagine that you're smiling, you will feel a difference in your body. You'll typically feel your energy raise up like that. Just sit there and practice that. Practice feeling on purpose. Do that for me. And this is how we develop emotional intelligence. Practice conjuring or creating your own feeling. If you want to manifest your future, you have to create the memory of that event before it happens. And you do that through virtual experiences with an end result of feeling. All right, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.